Yeah, these wheel dollies from DJS Fabrications work great for moving the Honda Prelude out of the way. So what I'm working on is a 97 Ford F150. It's either got a cracked head or a blown head gasket, so we're doing a cylinder head job on it. And basically all of these, this is a 4.6 liter engine in it, all of these Triton engines are basically exactly the same from 97 to 2005. Even the V10 one, the only difference is with it has two more cylinders, but other than that, they're taking them apart and putting them back together as the same. And in 98, they went to coil over plugs. They don't have these coil packs on there like that. But I'm not going to show in this video how to take every single thing apart, only the important parts. Yeah, and this is what I'm going to use to take the fan off. It's this Lyle part number 43300, if you can see that. And that hooks to an air chisel. And I'll show you what it looks like when it's on there. Yeah, and another way you can take these fans off if you don't have that tool is take the correct size wrench and put it on here and hit straight down on top of here with a sledgehammer, and that usually breaks it loose. Don't try to hit it this way or the other way. You want to hit straight down on the top. Yeah, and this is how the tool actually goes on there. Yeah, and it took it right off. It was just hard for me to do that with my left hand. Yeah, and with these Triton engines, to pull the heads off, you have to pull everything off the front of the engine and the front cover off. Yeah, another good thing you can do when you're doing this is take a lot of pictures of stuff. Then you'll know how it goes back together. And when you see these like studs sticking out of the cover, and some of them have them, some of them don't, you should just mark the cover. Just scratch a line in here on each one of those. That makes it much easier to figure this out when you go to put it back together. If you don't do that, you're going to have to be putting the bolts in different places until you figure out where they go. Yeah, you also have to take the power steering pump off, and the bolts are on the back side here. There's two bolts on top and one on the bottom. And I also took the water pump off. Normally you wouldn't have to do that, but I'm going to replace it. And it was a good thing I did take it off because it is leaking. Yeah, I got the power steering pump and the harmonic balancer off. There's 4 bolts in it. It must be the diesels that have 3. And you also need to unplug this wire here for the crank sensor. It's kind of hard to get your hands in there with the air conditioning compressor there, but you can do it. Yeah, I also got the intake manifold off. And to get those fuel lines off, you'll need these tools. And it's best if you spray like WD-40 on it first. It helps it, makes it easier to get apart, because sometimes they still don't come apart real easy even with the tools. Yeah, I got the front cover and the valve covers off. Yeah, look at that oil. And the timing chains were all rusted up too. Yeah, I got one of the heads off. And anytime I'm going to do a job like this, first thing I do before I even start working on it is I spray WD-40 on the exhaust manifold bolts. And here where I live, normally they come apart by doing that. If you live in a state where they put salt on the roads, they probably wouldn't come apart. Yeah, so I just got another engine for the Ford truck. And the reason I'm replacing the engine is that other engine had set with coolant in one cylinder for a long time and it damaged the top of the cylinder. And if the compression's off just a tiny little bit, it will set the check engine light for a misfire code. And here in the state of California, it won't pass the emissions test if it's like that. And this engine's just from the junkyard. It's supposed to have like 150,000 miles on it. And it was $650, but I'm pulling the heads off because I have to put spark plug thread inserts in every one of the cylinders, and I'll show you why later. Okay, I just got one of the heads off. I'm not sure how well it's going to show up on camera. But the spark plug threads on these Triton engines, they only have a 1/4 inch of threads. All of the Triton engines from 97 through 2005 are like this. In 2006 they came out with variable valve timing and the heads are different. They're not like this. But anytime you're going to take one of these engines apart, you should have inserts put in every one of the spark plug thread holes, because eventually they will go. And it's much better to have it done now. Yeah, I got the engine all apart and cleaned up. Now I just need to take these heads to a machine shop and have those inserts put in it and have them surfaced. And the rest of the parts I ordered them from Rock Auto. That way I can save some money on this job. Yeah, I took the heads down to the machine shop to have them surfaced and have those spark plug thread inserts put in it. I also got the engine on an engine stand. And the only way, this uses metric bolts, I had to turn these things around backwards and do that to get it on there. So I didn't have any real long metric bolts. So you can't turn the engine completely upside down because these pieces are sticking out too far. Yeah, I just got most of the parts from Rock Auto. The only thing that hasn't showed up is one battery cable and the hood lift supports. They're coming from another location. And the heads I haven't got back from the machine shop yet. But I do have the stuff. I'm going to do the brakes while I'm waiting. Yeah, I got the brakes done. Yeah, I didn't film it because it was getting dark out and I tried to hurry up. And anytime I replace drum brakes, I always replace the wheel cylinders also, because they're real cheap and you don't want them to leak a few months after you do this. Yeah, I also replaced the rear main seal because it came in a gasket set. And I was able to do that without even taking it off the engine stand. Yeah, I just got the heads back. I had them surfaced and I had inserts put in all the spark plug thread holes. And when you get these heads, you should always set them only on cardboard so you don't damage the area where it's been surfaced. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but there's inserts in every one of the spark plug holes. Yeah, now with those inserts in it, these engines are real good. They never have any problems. Okay, so now I'm going to assemble these heads. This is the right head. So anytime you're saying right or left on a car, that means with you sitting in the driver's seat. Okay, I got both heads assembled. And when you do this, it's best if you get that mark as close as you can to 12 o'clock position. That way you don't have to turn these cams much to line it up when you go to put the chains on. And on the left head, in the very front of it, underneath the intake manifold, this cylinder head temperature sensor goes in there. Yeah, and on the head bolts, I always put anti-seize on the threads and right on the head and the washer. That way it gets torqued down properly when you put it in. Yeah, so now I'm ready to torque the heads down. And how this gets torqued down is the first step is 28 to 31 pounds. The next step is 85 to 95 degrees. And the third step is 85 to 95 degrees. Anytime you see bolts that say a certain amount of degrees, those are torque to yield bolts. And a lot of times when this engine's in the car, there's no way to turn the ratchet 95 degrees. So what you have to do is, the easiest way to do it is mark the head bolts. Like I did. This engine doesn't need to be done because it's in the car. I'm just doing this to show you. Then you can see how much you're turning it each time, because sometimes you can only turn the ratchet a tiny little bit each time. And also, when you torque the head bolts, you start in the middle and do these two bolts first. And what you're doing is you're making a circle, and the circle keeps getting bigger. Then you'll go to these two next, then the two outer ones, and then the last two. And what that does is that works the gasket out. Yeah, and with these timing chains, most of the time when they've been used, you can't see the timing marks anymore. This particular one, I can still see it, but all you have to do is lay it out like this and mark the two end links with a Sharpie. And that's your timing marks. Then to line it up on the engine, you want the keyway at about 11 o'clock. Then the two marks on the bottom of the sprocket are facing straight down. And this is about where these marks go. This one I think goes straight up, straight out this way. and the other one goes up a little bit. I'll show you when I get it on there. Okay, and here's what everything looks like when it's on there right. And it's best to take these tensioners, stick them in a vise, and stick a little screwdriver to push this piece back, and slowly compress that and get the oil out of it first. And that way it makes it much easier to put this back on, because you can't really get the oil to squirt out of it when you're pushing it by hand. And before you put the front cover on, you better make sure to put this piece in for the crank position sensor. It's very easy to forget this if you don't have it sitting there with the other parts. And this piece that's sticking out goes towards the rear. And I always like to take and put some grease on the front seal. That way when you put the harmonic balancer on there, it doesn't damage it. I know somebody's going to say in the comments you didn't get that front cover clean, but it's just not worth spending hours with a wire brush to get every spot of dirt off of it. Yeah, and anytime I put one of these water pumps in, they're going to have an O-ring around it like that, I put a little bit of gasket sealer on it, just to make sure it doesn't leak. Normally you wouldn't do that, but you don't want to have it leak and then come back later and have to fix that. And also, when you're putting a junkyard engine, you want to use all the sensors out of the old engine, because they might not be the same on the new one. Yeah, I got the oil pan and one exhaust manifold on it. Only other things I'm going to put on this is the other exhaust manifold and the valve covers. I'm going to leave the intake off when it goes in the engine, or it goes in the truck, because there's some bolts back here on the heads that got to go in there, and it'd be hard to get to that. And anytime you get a car with aluminum heads, they come with these kind of exhaust manifold gaskets in there. It's just like a thin piece of sheet metal spot welded together. You either want to go to the dealership and buy more, or reuse the old ones. If you put these type of gaskets in there, you'll ruin the exhaust manifolds. In 6 months' time, it'll warp the manifolds and then it'll blow the gaskets out. These type of gaskets have material in there with metal on the outside. They're no good. I know I said that in another video show that, and right away somebody left a comment, why didn't you use the gaskets? And that's why. You don't want to use those gaskets. On the old engines with cast iron heads, they never even had gaskets in there. Yeah, I put the front cover back on off the new engine, and they're different. I didn't realize there was belt tensioner goes, and this piece, it's in a different location. So I'm going to have to take this back apart and put the original front cover on it. And to get the torque specs on these engines, you can just go on AutoZone's website and put in the vehicle information and go to repair help. And then it'll say vehicle repair guides and then specifications, and that's how you can get all the information you need. And almost all the cars you can get it for free. Okay, so the engine's ready to go back in the truck now. So all I need to do is take it off the engine stand and put the flex plate on it. And I'll also put the battery cables and heater hoses in the truck before I put the engine in, because it's easier to get to it. Yeah, I got the new battery cables all made up. Yeah, it was kind of hard to get it all through here. Yeah, the original ones, somebody cut the ends off and put these on. Anytime I see a car with these ends on here, I replace the cables. Yeah, and sometimes you even actually see shops putting these on, which is ridiculous. These are just a temporary fix, because they get corroded right in here. That's why you don't use the hose. Okay, so I'm just about ready to put it back in. I just got to put the flex plate on it. And it's a good idea to lay all the parts out before you do this, so you don't forget something and have to take things back apart to fix something. Yeah, and when I put the intake manifold on, I only put gasket sealer on the areas where the coolant goes through. Yeah, I got it running. Now the AC needs to be charged. Yeah, another thing the previous owner did is they mounted this trailer brake controller right in front of the DLC. I moved it over a little bit. Yeah, you never want to block that. Yeah, now I'm just charging the AC, and then this truck's finished. Yeah, and here's the next project. I got the engine for my Prelude.